Hello, students. Today we are going to be reading a story. One of the words that you might think about when we are reading this story is one of our core words, help. There is a girl in this story that helps her sister, and this story is one where it's a really good example of helping others and how you can, how people benefit from once one person helps another. Sometimes it benefits other people too. When you are reading this story, if you can find the word help, when you find a situation where she's helping someone else or something gets better, that would be good. You can also say like or don't like with anything about the story. And you can also use some describing words too, to say what you think about the places that the girl is walking through. All right, so this story is called The Line of Golden Light. Once upon a time, there lived a girl whose name was Avila. She was a sweet, loving child who was always amazed that there were so many things in the world to make her happy. Now it happened that Avila had a younger sister who was blind. She was a beautiful little girl with a heart just as kind and loving as Avila's, and the two sisters spent most of their time laughing and playing together. More than anything else, Avila wished her sister could see God's beautiful world, and she kept wondering if there was something she could do to make that happen. She wanted to help her sister. One day, Avila heard of an old woman who lived in a dark cave. People said that this old woman knew a secret spell that could give sight to the blind. So one fine spring morning, Avila went to see her. The mouth of the cave looked so dark, it made the child's heart beat very fast. I would say she probably did not like that cave because it was scary to her. She might have felt scared. She might have said, I don't like that. But the thought of her little sister gave Avila courage, and she walked in. She found the old woman sitting on a stone chair, spinning a pile of flax into a fine thread. Flax would be like a type of plant that you can make some thread from. Avila came close to her side and said bravely, I have come to ask you how I can help my little sister see. The old woman looked at her for a very long time. Then she stooped, so she crouched down and searched in the heap of thread that lay at her side until she found the end of it. She's been spinning that flax for a long time. She held it out to the child, saying, Take this and carry it around the world. When you have done that, come to me and I will show you how to give your sister sight. So this story is not something that really happened because it wouldn't be possible for someone to grab a piece of thread and carry it around the whole world. But it is a good lesson story. So it would be kind of like a fable. Thanking the old woman, Avila seized the tiny thread and hurried out of the cave. Can you see the thread? Avila is carrying the thread out of the cave. After she had traveled a while, she looked back to be sure the thread had not broken, since it was so thin. Imagine her surprise when she saw that instead of being a gray thread of spun flax, it was a thread of golden light that glittered and shone in the sun. If you have some colors on your device, you could go to colors and what color would be close to gold? You can look for that. The tiny line of bright light stretched across the soft green, there's another color word, grass, far into the distance. And strange to say, each tiny blade of grass that it touched had blossomed into a flower. So the little girl looked back and she saw a flowery path with a glittering line of golden light running through it. How beautiful, she exclaimed. I did not notice the flowers as I came along, but the magic thread will make the next traveler see them. So there is an example of where she might have been happy and she might be feeling good, and it's nice for her to think about the fact that someone else will see the pretty flowers. Soon she came to a dark forest. Ooh, how would you feel about the dark forest? What are some dark colors? Where sunlight never shone. In the distance, she thought she could hear the growl of bears and the roar of lions. Her heart almost stopped beating, but she pushed on. Sometimes she knocked her head against a tree that stood in her way. Oh no! Ouch! You could say ouch on your device. And sometimes she was afraid she was lost, but every now and then a little gray squirrel, there's another color, would frisk by in a friendly way to let her know she was not alone. Oh, that was nice. That might have been a friend. When she looked back, she found that the mysterious thread had opened a shining path behind her so that the next traveler could easily follow in her footsteps without bumping into trees or stumbling over fallen trunks. Oh, that's nice. That made her happy. And she walked on until she came out of the woods. So there she is walking in the woods, and she's walking out of it. We'll see on the next page what that looks like. We've got a couple more sentences to read. But now a new problem faced her. As she trudged along, the air grew hotter and hotter. Oof, hot. The trees disappeared and the grass became brown, there's another color, and dry, until at last she found herself in the middle of a dreary desert. A desert is where there's not a lot of trees, there's not really a lot of plants or anything, it's a lot of sand, not a lot of rain. For miles and miles, the scorching sand stretched away on every side. Still she toiled on, cheered by the swarm of yellow butterflies that fluttered just ahead of her. Yellow, there's another color. Dusty and weary, she finally reached the edge of the desert. So this is a really nice example too of someone who's going through a really tough time right now, but she is finding something good about everything that she's going through. And that's a good thing that we can keep in mind as we're going through the coronavirus and how there are protests going on and things like that, that there are still good things that are happening too. She turned to look once more at the golden thread that trailed behind her, and what did she see? Tall shade trees had sprung up along the path she had traveled, and each tiny grain of sand that the wonderful thread had touched was now changed into a diamond, a ruby, an emerald, or another precious stone. Avila thought happily of how cool and shady the desert path would be for the next traveler, and of the precious jewels she had left for someone else to gather. She could not stop for them herself. She wanted to press forward and finish her task so that her sister might see. After a while, she came to a place where huge rocks lay around in confusion, as if giants had hurled them at each other. So giants are like really, really big people, so big rocks. The path grew steeper and steeper and the rocks sharper and sharper. Oh no, until they cut her feet and tore her dress. Ouch. There's another time where she might say, ouch. That would be not good. Would not like that. A high mountain of rocks lay before her, so tall the child thought she could never get across it. But two strong eagles soared overhead, and their cries seemed to say, "Be brave and strong, and you will meet us at the mountaintop." So there's something to encourage her. So she climbed on, always keeping the soaring eagles in sight. When she finally reached the top, she looked back at the thread of golden light, and another marvelous thing had happened. The rugged path of rocks had been changed into a broad and beautiful white marble steps. She knew that she had made a pathway for others upon the difficult mountain, and her heart was happy. She traveled on and at last reached the dark cave of the strange old woman who had told her to carry the line of light around the world. Avila rushed inside and cried, "I did what you told me to do. I carried the thread all the way around the world. Now please give sight to my sister." The old woman sprang to her feet, seized the thread of golden light, and exclaimed, "At last, I am free." I wonder what's going to happen. If you look at this picture, you might be able to guess what happens to the old woman. Then, before Avila's own eyes, the old woman changed into a beautiful young princess. There she is, with golden hair and kind blue eyes. Her story was soon told. Hundreds of years before, she had been changed into a bent old woman and shut up in the dark cave because she, the daughter of a king, had been selfish and lazy, thinking only of herself. Her punishment had been that she must remain in the cave until she could find someone who would be kind-hearted and brave enough to make the long, dangerous journey around the world for the sake of others. She showed the child Avila how, by dipping the golden thread into a spring of fresh water, she could change the water into golden water that glittered and sparkled like liquid sunshine. Filling a bowl, they hurried to where the little blind sister sat. The beautiful princess told Avila to dip her hands into the bowl of enchanted water and then press them upon the closed eyes of her sister. They opened, and suddenly Avila's little sister could see. After that, the beautiful young princess came and lived with Avila and her sister, and she taught them how to do many wonderful things. So there are a couple of themes in that story. One of them is hope. One of them is making things better for other people and helping. And then another one is just talking about somebody's heart. So it talked about the fact that Avila's heart was very generous and that she loved her sister, and that she was not selfish. And it also talked about how the old woman had been a selfish young princess, and she did not have a lot of generosity and a lot of giving. And so I think as we go through this time, it's good to have hope in your heart, and it's good to have generosity, and it's good to be able to see what you can do to make things brighter for others. So continue to think about that. I hope that you liked the story. Please tell your parents or your staff whether you liked or did not like the story. And if you would like to send me an email about what people thought, or write it on a data sheet or whatever you want to do, that would be great. Have a wonderful day.